Hunger stones. When the Elbe River runs dry, a message carved in stone appears. If you see me, weep. The date beneath it, 1616. But what if this stone isn't just a relic, but a warning from the past about our future? In the sweltering summer of 2022, the riverbeds of Europe cracked open in the heat. The Elbe, Rhine and Danube retreated, and the hunger stones returned. Massive boulders, carved centuries ago, resurfaced with eerie inscriptions. One reads, "When this goes under, life will become more colorful again. But when it doesn't go under, when the stone is visible, the land dries, crops fail, and famine follows." The most famous hunger stone rests near Děčín in the Czech Republic. Its oldest legible date is 1616, but traces of earlier droughts haunt its worn surface. The names of the carvers are lost to history. Researchers once dismissed the markings as anecdotal, but a 2020 hydrology study proved otherwise. The carvings align precisely with actual minimum water levels. Unlike casual graffiti, these were serious hydrological markers, data carved in rock by hands that knew suffering. Records stretch back nearly 1,000 years. In 1503, the people of Prague were ordered to fast and pray for rain. In 1666, fires from Central Europe's parched forests forced villagers to trek 7 miles just to find water. The Elbe's hunger stones became a living archive. On the Děčín stone alone, at least a dozen drought years are recorded between 1417 and 1893, centuries of repeating suffering. In 1904, a clever innkeeper named Franz Meyer saw the Děčín hunger stone as more than a warning. He tapped a keg by its side, added the now infamous line, "If you see me, weep," and sold beer to curious visitors. But strip away the gimmicks, and the stones still speak with chilling clarity. The 2022 drought was one of the worst in 500 years. Ghost villages, Roman forts, and World War II shipwrecks all re-emerged from the dust. But it's the hunger stones that carry the gravest warning. These stones weren't carved for history books. They were carved for us. Raw, unfiltered signals sent across centuries to whisper when the rivers fall silent. If you see me, weep. The Stonehenge warning. In 3100 BCE, Britain's skies erupted with fire, not once, but again and again. Just as the first circular ditch of Stonehenge was cut, the earth may have passed through a deadly cosmic trail. Was it a coincidence, or a warning built in stone? Every year, thousands gather at Stonehenge to greet the summer solstice. They stand in awe as the sun crests the horizon, flooding the monument's axis with golden light. But what if this moment, this alignment, wasn't just about worship? What if it once served as a trigger, a celestial tripwire for something far more urgent? In 1998, astronomer Duncan Steele proposed a radical theory. The earliest phase of Stonehenge wasn't built to honor the sun, but to predict meteor storms. Not just any storms. The Taurids. The Taurids are no ordinary meteor shower. They stretch across weeks and sometimes intensify into swarms of bright fireballs. Their source? The debris trail of a disintegrating comet, Comet Encke, still orbiting the sun today. And the danger isn't abstract. In 1908, the Tunguska airburst over Siberia flattened roughly 830 square miles of forest. Some researchers have hypothesized that Tunguska was caused by a fragment from the Taurid Encke complex. Steele's model traces the Earth's orbit back thousands of years, revealing windows of danger. Around 3500 BCE and again near 3100 BCE, our planet likely crossed dense pockets of Encke's trail. That timing is exact. Those are the same centuries when Neolithic builders constructed the Cursus, a massive ancient earthwork located just north of Stonehenge, and the first bank and ditch of Stonehenge war. Coincidence or cause? Steele goes further. He simulated the radiant, the point in the sky from which torrid meteors appear to shoot. Around 3100 BCE, that radiant sat just north of the midsummer sunrise, meaning if you built a monument aimed at the solstice, you also aimed at the warning flare of a coming meteor storm. Stonehenge becomes a compass, a sky calendar, a cosmic alarm clock. This wasn't about knowing the hour, it was about knowing the year. Steele suggests the ancients watched for patterns, stormy Junes followed by calm stretches, predictable rhythms within chaos. If fire fell from the sky every few decades, you'd build a monument to remember. You'd build to survive. Even dust mattered. Fine particles in the comet trail could veil the sun, cooling the land, ruining crops. In that case, dim skies became just as deadly as fire. Critics call it speculative. Archaeologists warn, don't mistake alignment for intent. But this theory is testable. Steele points to orbital data, tree ring anomalies, and even Ice Age legends that speak of fire serpents and sunless summers. Was Stonehenge the world's first planetary defense project? The monument endures, half ruin, half riddle. Perhaps its stones whisper a message carved in sky cycles and catastrophe. Watch the heavens, count the days. The stars remember what we fear to forget. The War Scroll, buried for nearly 2,000 years in a desert cave by the Dead Sea, was a scroll so strange, so vividly violent, that some scholars believe it was a blueprint for the end of the world. Not a metaphor, not a parable, a manual, with detailed battle formations, trumpet commands, and even the day-by-day choreography of Armageddon. They called it the War of the Sons of Light against the Sons of Darkness, and its true purpose may have been not to describe the past, but to warn the future. In 1947, a Bedouin shepherd stumbled upon a hidden cave near Qumran. What he found would shatter our understanding of ancient Judaism and early Christianity. Thousands of fragments, now known as the Dead Sea Scrolls. Among them, Scroll 1QM, or simply the War Scroll, a 19-column battle plan unlike anything else from the ancient world. It lays out a final conflict between the forces of light, Levi, Judah, Benjamin, and a mysterious group called the Yahad, against the sons of darkness, led by Rome. This is no vague prophecy, it's logistics. The War Scroll describes 40 years of combat, including a decisive 7-stage battle where the outcome hinges on divine intervention. The first 6 engagements end in a 3-3 stalemate. Then, in the 7th, the great hand of God intervenes, annihilating the forces of Belial, Satan, and all his angelic hosts. There are instructions for battle trumpets, war banners, infantry units divided into thousands, hundreds, 50s and 10s. Even the priests have roles, offering specific prayers before each clash. Is this ancient sci-fi or a historical relic of rebellion? Some scholars say the Essenes, an apocalyptic sect that rejected Jerusalem's priesthood, wrote the scroll as a spiritual vision of divine justice. Others believe it may have been a coded military plan forged under the shadow of Roman occupation. And curiously, the War Scroll uses the plural form messiahs, not just one savior, but possibly 2, a warrior and a priest, foreshadowing tensions in early Christianity. Who wrote the War Scroll? Why hide it in the cliffs above the Dead Sea? Was it a forgotten fantasy of fanatics or a prophecy still waiting to be fulfilled? One thing is clear. The War Scroll is not just a relic, it's a warning. And maybe, just maybe, it wasn't meant for its own time, but for ours. Tsunami stones. In 2011, a wall of water 127 feet high slammed into Japan's coast. Almost every coastal village was destroyed, except one. Anayoshi survived because of a single stone, Carved more a century earlier, it warns, "High dwellings are the peace and harmony of our descendants. Remember the calamity of the great tsunamis. Do not build any homes below this point." The villagers obeyed. When the tsunami came, the waves stopped 300 feet away from that line. Every home stood. Every life was saved. They call them tsunami stones. Hundreds of carved slabs rising from Japan's northeastern coast. Some are 10 feet tall, others no larger than a gravestone. Each bears a message from ancestors who watched the sea erase their world. Some are urgent commands. Run to high ground after an earthquake. Others mark death tolls or mass graves. Some stones date to 1896, when the Meiji Sanriku tsunami killed 22,000 people. Others reach back to 869 AD, when the Jogan tsunami hurled sand miles inland. For centuries, survivors rebuilt higher, then carved warnings for those who would forget, because forgetting is what kills. But in modern Japan, confidence in concrete, seawalls, warning systems, sensors slowly eclipsed ancestral memory. Coastal towns swelled. The stones, often dismissed as relics, were forgotten. When the magnitude 9.0 earthquake struck in March 2011, the resulting tsunami overwhelmed defenses, killing nearly 29,000 and triggering the Fukushima nuclear disaster. But Japan isn't alone. Across the world, ancient voices etched their memories of floods in stone. In Rome, 5 plaques cling to the walls of Santa Maria sopra Minerva, marking the Tiber River's highest floods between 1422 and 1530. One shows a hand carved in relief, water spilling from its finger, pointing to the height that nearly drowned the eternal city. The inscription reads, "Rome would have been buried if not for the Virgin's swift aid." Far north, in Gdańsk, Poland, harbour workers uncovered a limestone block dated 1651, its surface still scarred by the flood that once swallowed the Baltic harbour. It may be the only flood stone of its kind in the country. Different continents, different faiths, same message. Every few generations we rebuild too close, trust too deeply in our walls, and forget what the stones once knew. Hopi Prophecy Rock. Near the ancient village of Oribe, Arizona, a sandstone wall holds a stark diagram of human choice. Lines and figures march across the panel, some rising, some falling, the story cut into stone. Many today call it Prophecy Rock. Hopi elders have used this image to teach that humanity stands at a crossroads. One path runs low and straight, the way of the one-hearted, who keep faith with the instructions for living, ceremony, corn, sun, and humility before the land. The other path climbs upward, jagged and broken, the way of the two-hearted, who chase power and forget their covenant. That line ends in the air, unfinished. The Hopi say this is where we are now. For generations their teachings have spoken of 4 worlds, cycles of creation and collapse. The first perished by fire, the second by ice, the third by flood. Each time, people lost balance with nature and with one another. We inhabit the 4th world, and the signs of imbalance are already here. Over the last century, older metaphors have been connected to modern times. A gourd of ashes falling from the sky, the atomic bomb. Snakes of iron crossing the land, railways. A giant spider's web stretching across the earth, telephone lines, or perhaps the internet itself. And finally, a dwelling place in the heavens that will fall, the blue star Kachina, the final sign before purification. Perhaps a spacecraft or destructive comet. At the base stands a guardian figure, often identified as Masor, spirit of death and earth, hand set toward the lower road, as if to say, this is the way that continues. Skeptics say these prophecies were shaped by modern fears, retold through the lens of war and nuclear fire. But the rock itself cannot be dismissed. Its lines are older than the asphalt roads that now cut through the desert. Standing before it at sunrise, you can see the straight path align with the solstice dawn, a reminder carved in stone. Two paths, one choice. Which are we walking now? Which of these ancient warnings should we heed for our future? Let me know in the comments. As always, thank you for watching Dark 5. Like and subscribe to continue exploring the greatest mysteries of this world and beyond.